Hello and welcome to another episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. Today I'm very excited to introduce you to Jon Freedman from Quant Fin. Jon, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure. And I've been excited about this one because I've been, as I said to you beforehand, I've been sort of fanboying a little bit with your content recently. And I think there's some really interesting stuff that you've been coming up with. You're also a podcaster, so the pressure's on me to do a good job here. You've had some good episodes that have been out recently. Know the pain, the pleasure, the glory of all of this sort of stuff. And it's a really interesting thing that you're doing. So, a stellar background, a track record you're going to go through in a minute with some of the biggest names in this industry, full stop. And now you've sort of are taking a different direction with Quant Fin. I think it's really interesting, some of the stuff you're doing. So we have got loads of stuff to get into today, and stuff which I'm very excited to talk about. So let's begin with an intro. Jon, I've spoken a little bit about it there, but give us your background and tell us a little bit about yourself and then Quant Fin as well.
Thanks very much. Well, I started my career in technology and capital markets about 20 years ago now. I was a grad trainee at Morgan Stanley, pre-financial crisis. Came off that programme and worked for a guy called Lex Greensill, who's infamous at this point in the FT earlier this week. When the financial crisis hit, Lex and his business ended up moving out to Citigroup, and I had a job offer from RBS and a job offer from a hedge fund I'd never heard of called Brevin Howard, and I ended up taking a risk going to the hedge fund. It worked out quite well.
Did all right.
And I bounced back and forwards Morgan Stanley again for a little bit. At that point, I decided the sell side wasn't for me. I liked a smaller organisation. I wanted to see more of an impact for the work that I was doing, and went back to Brevin for the second time. Did a stint at Millennium working on a trading desk, so that was quite different. I was the only tech guy with, I think at one point about 10 of us on a G3 rates discretionary trading team. What that means is people making decisions, not computers.
That must have been interesting.
It was great. Really, really interesting, really intense. The team I was on covered the UK, so we would listen to Prime Minister's Question Time and be really into UK politics. Basically cured me of any interest in politics at all. I now just can't engage with this, having done it as a job for
I think most people are in that space at the moment, aren't they?
well, yeah. And at that point, I had a choice of going more into the trading side, very high stress, less technical, or going back into the IT side of things. I ended up going to Point 72, and I co-headed the macro quant dev team for about 18 months. Set up a team in Warsaw in Poland. That was really fun. And then went back to Brevin for the third time. So that was...
Couldn't keep you away.
Well, they outsourced tech into a spin-off called Quant in 2018. That's when I left the second time. In 2020, late 22, early 23, they were bringing tech in-house again.
Yeah.
And that was interesting for me. So in the traditional way to get a job, I messaged Aaron Landy, CEO, because I knew him from my previous job, and said, I see you're hiring, is there anything for me? And I ended up running risk, middle and back office technology, non-front office tech at Brevin for about 2 years. Really interesting, again, massive growth. We went at one point from about 9 people in my department to over 100 with contractors in the mix.
Wow.
Went into India, set up a team in Bangalore. Lots of really interesting things to get stuck into. I left in October 24.
At some scale over a couple of years, isn't it?
Pretty intense.
Yeah.
Pretty intense. And at that point, I had a choice of same again. Do I find another hedge fund job? Tech leadership.
Why was it the right time to move then?
Well, part of it was just change within Brevin and new leadership. For me, I would say it was intense. It really was intense.
Well, you took 9 to 100. And then I mean, that's a lot. That is an awful lot.
I did 1 week where I was in India Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon flew to Abu Dhabi, got home, read my son a bedtime story on Friday night, and I was out of it for the weekend.
Yeah.
So it's intense, good fun, built a great team, I'm really proud of what I did, but also quite happy to have a bit of a break.
Yeah.
And with that choice, do I do the same, do I do something different? I thought, let's try something different. That brought us to the Quant Fin story. So in April 2025, set that up. I work on a fractional basis. It's a little unusual in the UK, more common in the States. What that really boils down to is working with multiple clients at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'll split my time day to day between different clients, picking up tasks as needed. It's not Mondays with company A, Tuesdays with company B model. It's all about impact, and that really fits with what I wanted to do. People often ask me, like, how do you context switch between them? I just say, I've been doing that for my entire hedge fund career. I've always had to jump.
That's the beauty of having that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not that different.
Yeah.
Working with lots of internal stakeholders on different projects versus working with different external stakeholders on different projects.
Yeah.
And it's given me an opportunity to see more buy-side firms in a short period of time as well. So we were very lucky. We worked with some big clients and some smaller clients at the start through my network and people who worked with me before, starting to expand that into more interesting spaces, to FinTech.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a cliche, every day is different. I mean, it really is different.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
We have a bit of a plan in the morning, what we're planning to work on that day, but if something comes up with a client, then
it changes very quickly. Yeah. And it's important you say we there, the me has become we, hasn't it?
It did. So I've had we beaten into me over my career. We now is two people, and the guy that hired me into Brevin Howard in 2008, Richard Burgess, he's now my business partner. He works out of Munich in Germany.
Yeah.
I work out of Woking, just outside London.
Yeah.
And we can really cover US and UK hours, a bit of Middle East. We can do anything other than Asia, really.
Yeah. And you're loving it?
Yeah, it's great. I also had people, less so now, but at the start asked me, well, what if one of your clients wants you to go permanent? I'm like, well, there's probably...
Brevin 4.
Well, yeah, we'll see about that. There's probably a number on that, but it's not on my radar at all.
Yeah.
And it would almost be a sign that our model didn't work properly, because we want to go to a client and show them they can get value from us working fractionally. If they're thinking, hang on a minute, I need more of Jon and Richard, well, I guess that's good, but it's showing our model didn't quite work.
We're seeing more and more people, I think, with your level of experience moving into that fractional world now, and I think it's a good model for both parties. And it's interesting, you spoke there about the sort of customers you're working with from fintechs, which we'll come on to a little bit later on, but you talked about the sort of newer funds which keep coming up at the moment with velocity, and they obviously need some experience there that they isn't a full-time job at that sort of stage. Plus the more established people where it might not, they'll obviously have a fairly settled and executive team within that, but it's also then becomes a sort of secondary part where you're talking more advisory than you are about taking out and outsourcing that. So that must give you a really interesting insight. Tell me some of the things you're seeing from the smaller startups and what they need help with, and then where that advisory and some of the challenges they're facing in the larger places.
Yeah.
On the buy side.
There's a very easy answer, and that's AI. Where does artificial intelligence fit into a business? What makes sense to invest in? And it feels like it's driven by FOMO, fear of missing out. If you're a COO or even a chief investment officer at a fund, you don't want to be the one that doesn't have AI in their investment process. And some of the big multi-strats have been quite vocal over the last couple of years about what they've invested in. Balyasny with their own BAM GPT. How much of that is PR? I don't know. what is certainly true is that big funds will put a substantial amount of money into this, but you've got to frame that in the wider ecosystem of AI, where there's a lot of stuff in the press about Zuckerberg taking AI engineers into Meta for hundreds of millions of dollars salary. I mean, if a hedge fund offers me that, I might move.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Get in touch with me first.
Yeah, we'll split the fee. Yeah. The reality is more that a few roles that wouldn't have existed even a year ago have been created within a firm. But what's the focus? And something we touched on when we were prepping. How do you budget for this? So, as an organisation, if you've got a CFO, they want next year's numbers. They want some sort of certainty about spend. And in technology, the CTO and the CFO would always clash about spend in the cloud. The whole point of the cloud is it's flexible. If you knew how much you were going to spend next year, then you don't really need the cloud. AI is in a sense worse, because not only do you not know what you need, but every few months the goalposts keep moving. So in my last role, I was on an AI committee. I was leading AI from a tech perspective for a while. We were discussing, do we give ChatGPT to everybody, or do the managers need to request it? And at the time, that's about $20, $25 per seat. And now that's one of several options that some firms are spending. If you want to go down the Anthropic route and use Claude, you might be spending $200 per month per user. And that's before anyone hits their limits and asks for more.
Yeah, of course.
So how do you budget in terms of dollars? These are just tools that you give people. You can buy a product that could be 5-6 figures and do something meaningful for your business. Though that's almost easier to budget for, but what about time as well? If we get the CFO to agree to carve out this pot of money for AI initiatives and you spend it, how do you measure the return, and how do you check what people are doing? Because people are pretty busy at the start, right? Why are we chasing efficiency from AI? Because we want to grow our business. We want that efficiency to turn into more traders, more trades, more AUM.
Do you think people are chasing efficiency or productivity at the moment through AI? What do you think? I think they're probably going for both.
Yeah.
But I have my thought on this, but I'd be really interested to get your take on where that premium sits for people.
We always push the clients we work with to look about productivity or to look at productivity and think about what the team, the area that you're focused on, what their day to day looks like, and how much of it is value add versus just work that has to be done. Because the clue in value add is all about adding value. You do more of that, your business is in a better place. And scaling is where we're interested in working. Like if you're focused on AI because you are spending X and you'd like to spend 90% of X next year, then great, you can probably make that happen. But you're going to have to pay us to come in and help. That's going to take you over X for this year. We're more interested in the growth story where that AUM growth or going into a new business, new location, bringing in more traders, moving your business forward in a positive way rather than a sort of defensive way. That's more aspirational, and it's just a nicer place to be.
I think it's interesting that. I think the offense versus defense, to look American it, I think it's a really interesting take, because my view is I agree with you. Productivity is where people should be heading. I think the natural inclination, which has been bred over the last 20 years post-crisis, is that people's natural inclination is elimination and cost reduction through AI. And I think if people took which I understand completely. But if I look at it from where I think it can probably have its greatest impact, it's the productivity gains that people do. And I think people push themselves into that sort of thing. I agree. I think it's really fascinating, this, because I genuinely think that people are doing it to keep up with everyone else, as opposed to thinking, how can we really look at this? And I've had conversations for the last couple of months in particular where I've seen the energy of people there who are embedded into AI as never more entrepreneurial, never more passionate. People are absolutely obsessing about the opportunity. You're seeing people there who've been doing the same sort of thing for 15 or odd years, who are suddenly just thinking in a completely different way about the opportunities. I think that's really exciting. But I think that's in a technology mindset, and I think when you look at people alongside it, it's that they're not necessarily thinking about the same options. Their thinking is, can we reduce our headcount by 30% and replace that sort of thing? Or can we, do we need software engineers anymore? Do we need to do this, that, and the other? And this is the conversation I think businesses are having. I think technologists think, how can we augment stuff and move it further forward? And that's got to have a little bit more mesh around it, in my opinion. I don't know if you see the same thing, or if I'm talking absolute nonsense.
We've had a few conversations recently comparing the focus on AI with the focus on cloud, and there's a bit of a tech mindset to this. But when organisations embrace the cloud, and that covers buy side and sell side, it was a bit about cost and a bit about the tech, and it was very CTO driven. Like the CEO, CIO at a big firm doesn't really care about the cloud. They're looking at their BlackBerry at the time when that conversation came up. It's very different with AI. Now the non-technical bits of the business are being told by their kids that their competitors, the man in the street, I can do this amazing stuff with AI, and they turn around to their CTO and say, where's our AI? What are we doing? Yeah. It's flipped the dynamic around. Take. Yeah. And without selling or talking our own book too much, that's where we feel we can help, because the CTO isn't driving AI not because they aren't interested in it and find it fascinating, it's because they already had a full-time job to start with. Yeah. I know this from my last role. Making time in your day to experiment, to try stuff out is really tough. Yeah. And what's the right area to focus on? It's impossible to know. We say to our clients, if you have a strong opinion about which AI tool or vendor is going to win and be top in the year, like, just trade that. Don't bother with the AI stuff. If you really believe this, you'll make billions of dollars just trading stock. What you need to focus on, and I do believe this goes for any size business and even outside finance, like, make some time in people's days to experiment with AI, give them the tools, give them the support, give them a bit of training about what's possible. And what you'll find with the people who really embrace this is within about a month they'll be telling you what's possible. Yeah. And it's a hell of a lot more than what you thought when you gave them the training in the first place. Yeah. It is incredible. And the
exponential learning of it all and the progress is exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, we consider ourselves fairly experienced technologists, myself and Richard, and even we're surprised at some of the things that non-technical folks at clients have been able to build using Claude in the last couple of months. Yeah. We almost do a double take. Like, it did that? Yeah. Wow, that's really impressive. And not to your earlier point of replacing software engineers, but letting people build things quickly. The software engineer's value is much less in writing code or typing out code anymore, and more around how to empower the whole organisation to be productive and get an AI tool. Yeah. So if you replace AI with spreadsheets, it's pretty familiar to hedge fund folks. Like, we built a spreadsheet to solve this problem, and now it's part of our critical business process. How do we support it? We've got an AI tool. We used AI to build a tool. It's the same problem and pattern we've been dealing with for 10, 20 years, but moving at a much, much faster pace.
Where do you take it? Because I've seen some of the posts you've been talking about the speed of how things can be built. And depending on who you're speaking to at various different stages, I've had people saying that we can do 6 months of work in a couple of days now, and we've needed a development team that was of X size, and it's been done, the work of 5-6 people or whatever at sort of stages in weeks or hours as opposed to months and years in some instances. And that does have an impact on where it goes. But I also think in this industry in particular, there's a lot more value that comes on from just being able to build that. And it feels to me as of an evolution of the job of an engineer as opposed to a replacement of the job of an engineer. But I get very different. There are people at numerous parts of the story in that. Where do you sit in it?
We've always been fortunate in the companies I've worked at that the sort of average quality level of engineering in our firm is a fair bit above the global average.
Yeah.
I do see real problems for firms with a traditional software outsourcing model of you want to build a thing, well, we'll give you a team of 8 people and one person with $1,000 of AI a month can do all of that probably 2 to 4 times faster.
Yeah.
The engineers in the finance space in particular on the buy side, I've always seen our value as understanding a lot more about the business and the problem domain. So this is something we see with our FinTech clients where money's tight, so if we can find cheaper developers, that feels like a good thing. When we talk about experienced developers in the finance sense, that should mean you can drop them into a conversation with a trading desk and leave them to it. And they come out of that conversation understanding the problem and working on a solution. There may be a state where you can, as a trading desk, explain what you want to AI and get something good enough. And it's always been good enough in hedge funds, never aim for perfect. I think that's quite a long way off. And right now, there's still value from somebody driving AI tools that has an opinion and has an opinion on quality in a technical sense and has opinions about the business outcome and understands what they want. AI at that level, when we talk about writing code, building tools, rather than a product that someone else has done the building for you, the payoff is all about speed. So you mentioned like a year or 6 months and doing it in a few weeks. That's amazing, and people should definitely lean into that stuff. Why is it such an extreme productivity increase? I suggest it's because there's fewer steps of trying to explain what you actually wanted. And hopefully hedge fund tech teams, and maybe if you're fed up with your tech team, and this doesn't sound like your tech team, we should talk. If you're asking for problems and or you're bringing problems to your tech team and they can't come up with solutions, that's not how this should be working. So when you're a trading desk and you want to use AI, you've got to make a decision. What's the best use of your time? Is it driving the AI in real detail on what you want, or is it having someone who's an experienced technologist that can make a pretty good guess of what you want off the back of a 10-minute conversation? That's what I built my career on. I still think there's massive value for that type of profile.
Yeah, totally agree. The other thing which you're looking at on the advisory side for some of this AI implementation is obviously the speed of change, right? And there will be people there who are looking at things and saying, right, we're all in, this looks great, and then 3 weeks later there's another release and it's almost completely defunct, and there's a new Emperor's New Clothes that enter stage left as well. And when we're talking about financial institutions, we're talking about procurement processes that can take months rather than hours. And so when you're talking about things that move at that sort of stage, we're seeing a lot of people at the moment who are saying, right, we want to bring in this tech, we're excited about this technology, let's do it, let's go through it. It goes through a procurement process, and by the time it's through that process, there's something better out there, or something more relevant out there, or it feels like it's old hat already at that sort of stage. That's a problem we haven't seen before. Procurement's always been a problem in the industry for the right reasons. But this is a problem now, which basically is a double-sided problem for both creator and for end user. And when you're looking at it in the space at the moment of it becoming less buy or build to buy and build model, it's quite interesting how that sort of comes up. And I guess you've got an ability there to advise on both sides of it as well.
Yeah, we will always push clients back to their risk appetite. So there's two sides to that. What is your risk appetite for bringing in a new vendor? But as we mentioned before, with AI being a CEO-driven initiative, what's your risk appetite for saying no to your CEO? Or what's your risk appetite for having to explain why the tool that you can use on your phone to get a great answer isn't compatible with your email at work?
Yeah.
And we've seen this in a few different ways. Companies have picked a tool and then within 2-3 months found out they actually need a menu of tools, and Anthropic and Claude will keep coming up on the list of things that people want to try. So we'll always tell our clients, if they have a really strong view on a particular vendor, then they should buy some shares in that vendor and make a load of money. In reality, nobody knows which tool is going to win, if there is even a winner.
Yeah.
We saw this very strikingly with Google and the Gemini models. When Gemini was released, it was materially better than the version of ChatGPT, version of Claude at the time.
Yeah.
Google haven't released anything for the last 6 months, and they're behind again.
Yeah.
So we were working with a client and listening to a senior trader say, I've done some research on, and this is asking Gemini on his phone about the market. He's done some research in Gemini, it's giving me much better results. I want to use this at work in a firm that is very Microsoft heavy.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't an option.
Yeah.
So again, you've got to bring it back to the risk appetite. Can you open up certain use cases, and are you happy with a policy-based control around this, or do you need monitoring? There are ways to do all of this, but the fundamental decision is, do you want to let your business experiment or not?
Yeah.
Hopefully you want some sort of experimentation, but how far do you want to take it? A lot of firms are concerned about Chinese models. DeepSeek came out, it was all over the news for a few weeks, and then people realised where it had come from and
got suppressed pretty quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, there's probably not that many hedge funds doing a huge amount with DeepSeek, but equally, if you run any software on a computer that isn't connected to the internet, then it's not going to send anything anywhere. That experimentation is really the goal. If we could go to clients and tell them the future, what AI tools they should invest in to improve their business, great.
I've got an idea of Biff's Almanac and Back to the Future here and all that sort of
well, exactly. I can't see the future, but what it can do is help firms both on a practical level and almost emotionally at the people level just get stuck in and try stuff.
Yeah.
We really push this experimentation idea and doing it quickly. If you're going to do an experiment and you can't tell within 4 weeks if it's worked, find a smaller experiment.
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to go through that example of seeing a tool and thinking this will really revolutionise our business process, and we're going to procure it, and it's 6 months have passed, and then you find out that someone can knock up the equivalent business process in Claude on the desktop in 20 minutes.
Creates challenges, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this. I knew this was going to be a lot that we're getting into, and I've had my way from behind the camera, but I do want to jump into something else where you talked about managing risk. We're filming this 2 weeks into the whether you want to call it World War III or the latest Gulf crisis or wherever you go. There's a lot happening, macroeconomically, and particularly out in an area where we've seen a lot of buy-side activity, and that's having an impact in the space. So when you look at that sort of thing, you see the sort of data centers under risk and general problems that sort of exist around BCP and everything there. That's got to be that's I know that's on your radar as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. One of our clients has a presence in Dubai, so on the Saturday when this all started, we reached out on the Sunday. The Dubai regulators had already written to all the financial firms and the DIFC. The initial reaction was fairly optimistic, and then a couple of weeks later there's a very physical impact on the DIFC, some broken windows. The Dubai airport closed for quite a long time. People have mostly invoked their business continuity plans in the area, so I think for the first week or so the DIFC was still quite busy. Most people are now working from home, and we're also seeing various companies ask their staff if they want to leave, so it's still a voluntary thing. Some people will stay, some people flying out, which means driving somewhere and then flying somewhere. When you drafted your BCP policy, you probably weren't imagining this as the way it would play out.
But we weren't during COVID as well, as we were talking about beforehand. And this is I guess the whole concept of BCP is to make sure that we're thinking about the unthinkable at various different stages. But there's been such an exodus and such a growth in that region that actually to see it now and see this sort of chaos that ensues behind it absolutely needs the rigour within there. And I think we're fortunate to have had I say fortunate, you're never fortunate to have had COVID, but to have been in that situation where you have a recent time memory of what it takes to work in this sort of scenario. And I guess that's something again which you can bring to the right people. Yes,
we've had experience both planning and executing these types of plans, and it's unusual for a firm nowadays to not be able to continue business.
Yeah.
What's different about the situation in UAE is it's not a global issue right now, and having staff who want to physically relocate is a regional problem. How does that play out? How do you manage that within your business and keep the lights on and keep growing, keep scaling your business? Everyone's always been excited about Dubai as an entrepreneurial centre. There's time zone advantages for trading, Asia markets, Europe and the US. None of these things have changed. As a firm, it goes beyond technology of what were the key drivers for going there in the first place? Do they still hold? Is there opportunity in crisis, and what does that look like beyond oil trading?
Yeah, here we go. This is where we need this crystal ball coming out again, doesn't it?
Yeah, and maybe if people take nothing else from this, that focus on appetite for risk, focus on what can move your business forward and how quickly can you do it. For me, that's really strong signs of an exciting company and organisation to be part of, and hopefully a successful one.
Yeah, and I like the fact it goes for small and start-up asset managers, and hedge funds and buy-side firms all the way through to the largest in the world as well, the multi-strats. I'm going to squeeze in one last piece, because I know that there's obviously the work you're doing there across that ecosystem, but also the fintechs themselves. I think there is, I've been talking a lot about this recently as well. It's never easier to start a business, and everyone's suddenly become entrepreneurs overnight and spinning out businesses, etc., etc. Everyone always believes that business is the one that should be adopted as solving the critical problem that takes over the world. But fintechs often struggle on the other side of it, of getting that traction, getting that sort of go-to-market right, getting that sort of, what's it going to be seen, and that's something which you've seen some success in as well, right?
Yeah. Both Richard and my background in big tech organisations, big finance organisations, mean we've been the buyer of quite a lot of fintech tools. So we have an understanding, both the upside and the downside of the procurement process you alluded to earlier. We can definitely guide fintechs around that, and it's true that the dollar and the time cost of building a minimum viable product, whatever it is, if it's dependent on software, is trending downwards because AI can let you move so much faster. I always pick on a dog walking app as an example. You can build one of those in AI and build a great successful business. If your app goes down for a few days, you can still pick people's dogs up and take them for a walk. If you're selling into the capital markets, the expectations are very different.
Exactly.
Both in terms of the reliability of the product and also the scrutiny that you're going to be put under.
Absolutely.
No one's doing 2 weeks of due diligence on their dog walking app. But when you've got a great idea and everybody believes their idea is great, or they wouldn't be in that entrepreneurial space in the first place, but you want to plug in credit card data or trade data, customer data, research, trade ideas.
Totally robust.
This is some of the most sensitive data companies have. Why should they be comfortable giving it to a startup that didn't exist 6 months ago? Well, it always comes back to that risk appetite. If you have a product that shows value to a business, how much risk are they willing to accept to get that value? Working with fintechs is something that is less risky than it used to be, less unusual than it used to be. What we can really help fintech startups with is getting them in the best possible position to go through that procurement process.
Yeah.
And
that's needed.
Yeah.
It's a failure point for so many companies, and I think that having that sort of that sort of advice, I think, is invaluable to so many of the companies I've worked with over the last 26 years in this space. So, Jon, I could be talking. This feels like a half-done episode. You're going to have to come back on and do it some more. I could riff on this for a long time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks for coming in and sharing it. Love what you're doing with Quant Fin. If people are watching this, want to find out a little bit more about it, I would firstly recommend. I'm really enjoying this LinkedIn. Keep up that good stuff with it as well. But if they want to do that, I guess find you up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and jon@quantfin.co.uk. Just shoot me an email.
Perfect. Listen, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for watching. We'll see you soon on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.